Oh, that's so good. Okay, guys, this is the well-rested herbal tea, caffeine-free from Trader Joe's. So perfect. Chamomile and mint tea and a bunch of other things. Very calming, very good for your nervous system. We're gonna turn off these notifications so that I can chit chat with you. Mute, okay. So Arthur Maxwell has this beautiful series of Bible stories for children. I grew up on these. Obviously I had to purchase them, and now I'm reading them to my children. And right now we're going through the story of Nehemiah and the rebuilding of the walls of Jerusalem. These are obviously narratives and stories produced from the actual Bible stories. There was this one sentence in the story of Nehemiah that just really struck my soul, and I feel like I had to create an entire video on this, like one sentence. It's the part where it says that they caught his spirit. The Bible says they strengthened their hands for the good work after seeing all of this courage and faith that Nehemiah had. I mean, that's such good news. They literally caught his spirit. And I thought, isn't that the reality of our lives as women today? It's about our spirit, the way that we show up in our day-to-day lives. The atmosphere that we carry can either build walls or it can tear them down. It can either inspire or it can quietly discourage. It can strengthen others or it can drain them. But if we carry a true Nehemiah spirit, we become the type of woman that rebuilds what's been broken for years. And that's what I particularly like about Nehemiah. It's not like he went and started just building something from scratch. He was rebuilding something that was already in ruins. And let me tell you from personal experience, that is 10 times more difficult. My husband and I own a small construction company, and I will tell you that tearing down and rebuilding is much more difficult. It's so much harder to put a broken canvas back together than it is to just work on a blank canvas. So this is a very intriguing message, because most of our lives as humans, like as women, let me tell you, like we don't exactly come out like blank canvases. You know, we have a lot of broken parts in our personalities, in our characters, in our spiritual walks, with emotional trauma and all of these things. So I feel this is perfect. The concept of Nehemiah's experience is so close to that of what we experience as women that I feel like I haven't really heard anyone touch on this or relate Nehemiah's experience particularly with women, but I feel like there's so much to unpack there. We want to be able to rebuild what's been broken, whether that's in our homes, in our health, with our families, with our churches, our workplaces. There's so many arenas in our life that has to do with already being broken and requiring the beautiful spiritual hands of rebuilding. There's so many aspects and layers to our lives that can be rebuilt with a more strategic walk with God. So, what is the Nehemiah spirit? Interestingly enough, Nehemiah wasn't a prophet, he wasn't a priest, and he wasn't even living in Jerusalem at the time. He was an ordinary man with an extraordinary posture of heart. He faced the ruins quite honestly, because in order for us to really get past things, we really have to recognize the problem, or that there is a problem. He prayed very reflectively and for a long period of time, and even fasted. He acted boldly when he had the opportunity to seek the permission and the resources to go out on this great venture. He didn't give up the opportunity out of fear. When the king asked him, "So what's really troubling you, Nehemiah? You are usually this happy guy, like what's going on? Something's weighing on your heart." And that prayer to the Lord and the actionable steps that followed, it shows that this was a man that was prepared to take risks, and that is bold. And when it came to arriving at Jerusalem, he inspired these people consistently. So we're talking about a despondent, angry, stubborn, most likely very depressed people, and he was able to consistently inspire them to keep going and keep at the project. And this is what I love the most, okay? From the time that the Babylonians tore down the walls to Nehemiah's time was about 150 years that these walls are sitting in ruin. And yet Nehemiah is able, with the help of God, to rebuild it in 52 days. That, my friends, is what God can do with someone who decides to show up with the right spirit. Ellen White says, "A strong, helpful, God-inspired influence is more powerful than words." It wasn't necessarily Nehemiah's speeches that rebuilt those walls, but there was something behind the energy of the spirit God gave him that really did the heavy lifting. Why this matters for Adventist women. Walls of emotional security within the home. Walls of spiritual consistency. Walls of health, routine, and discipline. We're building walls in the workplace where God has individually placed us uniquely. Walls in our church that need revival. So for the woman, it's your gentleness, it's your courage, it's your self-control, it's your peace, it's your resilience and your walk with God. These are the things that have the power to shift an entire household or an entire team or an entire church in a completely different direction. And I really don't want to just gloss over this idea of the home. The home is truly where you can build the most foundational walls for your children and for your family. That's why I truly believe that women are Satan's special target since the beginning of time, as we all know. But if you think about it, which heart among that in the family unit, which makes up the community, which heart, if you were the adversary, which heart would you want to really discourage and destroy? Because it's going to be the heart that's going to influence everyone. It's going to influence the husband, it's going to influence the children. So it's going to be the heart of the mother. Ellen White writes, the atmosphere of the home is decided by the mother's spirit. If the mother's spirit is discouraged and despondent and down, that's going to affect everyone else's spirit. It's going to be very difficult to build anything when the heart of a home, which is the mother's spirit, is broken. But if the heart is strong, if the heart of the home, the soul and the spirit of the mother is strong and courageous and joyful and excited and prayerful, how much stronger is that going to make the entire home? So it's not necessarily pressure. I would like you to think about it more as holy responsibility. Probably my favorite to yet. Let's look at 3 steps to carry the Nehemiah spirit today. Number 1, you really have to face the ruins with prayerful honesty. Whatever ruins there are in your life, broken relationships, issues with childhood trauma, or some sort of past problem, or some sort of limitation, or a disability, or whatever it might be, you really need to not just ignore it and say, oh, it's fine, it is what it is. Nehemiah didn't minimize the problem. He didn't sugarcoat it. He kind of grabbed the bull by the horns and he prayed and he asked God for clarity and for wisdom with how to move forward with this specific problem. I'm not just going to accept this problem. It is what it is. You're going to ask the Lord, how can I fix this problem right here? Once the problem has been identified and recognized, we can move on to the next step. But as women, we often ignore the ruins in our own lives because we're so busy taking care of everyone else's ruins, right? Like, how am I supposed to deal with my own issues if my son has this problem or my husband has this issue or my daughter's acting this way? But if you think about it, true healing begins with honesty, even with yourself. So you have to ask yourself these questions. What in your life has been broken for far too long? We're talking like 150 years. What in your life has been broken for far too long? Where is the enemy trying to sow discouragement and chaos in your life? You should be able to easily identify it because it's that one area that gets under your skin. It's that one area that causes you to break down. Which part of the wall is God calling me to address right now? It's not going to be all at one time, which is very interesting because that's how Nehemiah was able to rebuild the wall. Before you start building, you want to pray as Nehemiah did. Lord, give me the courage and show me where to begin. Ellen White reminds us that prayer is the key in the hand of faith to unlock heaven's storehouses. So let's not underestimate the power of prayer. The second step you want to do is that you want to build small, steady sections, not the whole thing at once, just small sections first. Nehemiah didn't build the entire wall all on his own. He organized that the people would rebuild the section that's directly in front of their home. So you had this wall divided into units and each family tackling each one of those units. So what I take from that is that God isn't asking you to fix everything all at once. He's asking you to start with sections. Do the first section. I'm going to first address the atmosphere in my home. It's not been a peaceful one. How do I make it peaceful? Then the habits that strengthen your heart. Are there things in your life that are causing weakening of your moral senses? You need to address those. The spiritual rhythm of your day. Are you taking the time to actually invest in your spiritual walk with God and your devotions? Another section can be relationships that need tending. For example, there might be tension between a brother or a sister. You might have a strained relationship with a father or mother. Addressing those with a simple text message or a phone call could really help calm those storms and allow you to rebuild the walls of your family relationships. And then there could be walls that need rebuilding within your church. If God is calling you to partake in a certain area of ministry within your church, that might be a good time to explore that. Reach out to your pastor and ask, like, these are my strengths. What are some of the areas that I can contribute to within my church that can help rebuild the wall of that section? So just think about rebuilding sections, one block at a time. Ellen White wrote, "By little duties faithfully performed, we are preparing for greater responsibilities." It's the little things, and they add up. You know, they might appear small and insignificant and like they're not going to have that much of an impact, but over a period of time, when they all come together, it is a completely rebuilt wall. Small obediences become large influences. And then number 3, you want to cultivate an atmosphere that others can catch. So mind you, Nehemiah could have just gone there and started trying to like put a couple of parts of the wall together on his own, kind of dragging his feet and not inspiring anyone. But when his spirit was so courageous and so hopeful and so positive, he was able to multiply the energy of one man into thousands of men and translate into that into their hearts, so that they went and rebuilt those sections of the walls themselves. So in the same way, within your home or within your workplace, instead of you going out and doing everything, maybe your spirit could be so positive and courageous and so strong that you then influence 10, 20, 30 people to do the work that you thought you were going to do on your own. Imagine how quickly and how effectively we could get stuff done if that's the way we approached it, very strategically. Effect of the spirit, the influence of the spirit over the influence of just, you know, a few words or a few actions. Let that spirit be the energy. Let that enthusiasm be the energy to inspire others, and imagine how much further we can go. Nehemiah's strength wasn't in his title, it was in the spirit that God had given him. People followed because they felt a certain degree of influence, of safety, of hopefulness in this man, and that's what gave them the fire to continue working on this almost insurmountable project. If you break up the word enthusiasm into its Greek words, it's en and theos. It comes from the words en and theos, which literally means to be filled with God. Enthusiasm is to be filled with God. So what they were catching was God's energy in Nehemiah. He was enthusiastic about the possibility of completing this grand project in such a short amount of time. They were catching God's energy from Nehemiah, and it's contagious. The same way a bad spirit is contagious. Depression is contagious. Sadness is contagious. Discouragement is contagious. Complaining is contagious, as evidenced by the Israelites and the exile out of Egypt. And what should have taken a much shorter time ended up taking 40 years. This is because we're seeing the exchanges and the artistry of good spirit over bad spirit. So you want to participate in attracting, embodying, and living the good spirit, the spirit of God, to be filled with God's energy. And we know the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These are the types of energetic forces that God has given us to embody that literally transform people's hearts. And it's contagious to have those characteristics. I think about the opposite: hatred, anger, lack of peace, impatience, unkindness, evil, lack of faithfulness, roughness, and zero self-control. That is also contagious. So if anything, you want to be able to embody the fruits of the Spirit, knowing that they are contagious, and be energetic with them. Be filled with God. Let the enthusiasm of God's love, of His peace, of His joy fill your hearts so that you can inspire others with that as well. So you want to ask yourself, what atmosphere do I radiate when I enter the room? Do my words strengthen hands, or do they weaken them? Do people feel hope around me, or do they feel heaviness? And trust me, you're going to know this. When you go into a room or you go to visit someone, you instantly know whether that person enlivened you or drained you. A lot of the times it's because of the spirit that they're carrying. Is it a heavy spirit, or is it a life-giving spirit? But you have to be aware you cannot give what you cannot hold. You might say, okay, great, I'm gonna go have a spirit of joy, but you have to truly hold it. You can't fake it. And I have seen very good, kind, wonderful people fake these characteristics. And let me tell you, you can spot it from a mile away. There is artificial joy and artificial kindness. I know when someone is forcing themselves to be kind to me. I know when someone's acting happy, but they're truly not happy. And it is not contagious. In fact, it's draining and repelling. So you know that you first have to hold that joy and that happiness and that enthusiasm. You have to feel it on the inside. So you need to be able to cultivate peace and joy, and it needs to be intentional. So you can build those things. How do you build those sections of your walls? You can build it by morning prayer before grabbing your phone and scrolling. If you start speaking life, especially if you're overwhelmed, it begins to calm that section of your overwhelm. Keeping your tone gentle. I'm Middle Eastern, and that's probably the hardest part for me to do, keeping my tone gentle when I'm correcting. So I have a 6-year-old and 3.5-year-old. It can drive me a little bit bonkers. So holding that peace though and being gentle, it does have a very calming effect. Guarding your thoughts. Let me tell you, not every thought that you have is from the Lord. In fact, most of them is from the enemy. So just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's your own. It could be a suggestion or insinuation from Satan. So what you have to do is guard your thoughts. Whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are holy, whatsoever things are a good report, think on these things. Whatever of those things do not represent those characteristics, you know it's not coming from the Lord. And it's not your thoughts either. It's a suggestion from the evil one. You need to be able to shun that. Guarding your thoughts is very important. And you want to be able to create order where you can. So just order, even if it's in your home. If there's a lot of clutter in your house, get rid of the clutter. Spend a few days, or like I'm highly influenced by the environment of the home that I live in. So I've noticed that the more cluttered a space is, the more overwhelmed and anxious I become. The less cluttered, the better I feel. So hire out a cleaning lady if you have to. Try to get extra support with kids so that you can manage the affairs of your home. These things require investments. And then choosing gratitude. There's always something to be upset about, for sure. In the same way, there's always something to be grateful for. Everything is developed with habits. If you have a habit of naturally gravitating towards negativity, you need to be able to arrest that and shift to the positive and shift to gratitude. It's going to be a little bit difficult at first, but then eventually it becomes a lot easier. Mrs. White says, a cheerful, hopeful spirit is a blessing and will prove the greatest aid in the work of restoring our health. Your spirit is in the process of healing. And the ultimate, I think, goal is to be able to be so filled with God or so enthusiastic for truth, and it just bubbles over and it brings God glory. I believe God has placed you exactly where you are right now. In that home, in that workplace, in that ministry, in that season of your life, in order to rebuild something sacred. And I want to say, don't underestimate the walls that are going to rise because you decided to carry the Nehemiah spirit into all of these sections of your life. So to start rebuilding your walls today, number 1, face your ruins honestly. Number 2, rebuild the small sections, not all at once, just one at a time, faithfully. Number 3, learn the strategies to cultivate an atmosphere that other people can catch, that they will be inspired by. And just like Nehemiah, you will look back and you will say, the God of heaven himself will prosper us. Therefore, we, his servants, will arise and we will build. As a thank you for watching this video, I created this one-page summary guide to help you remember this information. Check the bottom bar below for a free download. If you enjoyed this video, I encourage you to share this with another Adventist woman in your circle that might also be encouraged by it. Also, if you enjoyed this video, you can like it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, you can ring the notification bell for whenever new content goes out. And if you haven't already, go ahead and join our private Facebook group. The link is in the bottom bar below. It's called Her Grove, an Adventist Women's Community. Thank you so much for watching. I wish you all well, and I'll see you in the next video.